Welcome in on another instant reaction episode for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Now, I'm going to start this off by saying how I'm a little bummed. I'm your host, Tyler Valencia, but we were hoping that we could do a full episode for this. That is myself and Ron, the MovieBuffs, because I'll say it's our one of our favorite properties out there. It's one of the movies that Ron and I enjoy joking about. We love sending each other content about it, talking about it, and we're not able to do a full episode because of the actor strike that's going on right now. I don't know much about it. I don't know the details. I don't know X, Y, and Z about what they're looking, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I can't say. I'm not an actor. I have not read any of the negotiations, any of that stuff. But all I know is that Ronald is not able to do any type of podcast recordings, anything that which have to do with studios. And so that being said, this movie turned into instant reaction where I'm going to do more of a spoiler-free breakdown. And I'm only going to talk about things that have maybe come out with behind the scenes or stuff that's already been out on social media. I'm not going to talk about any spoilers. So, of course, these episodes are made in order to promote movies, to get people to go watch movies or shows, whatever that might be. So I hope that you take that into account. And let's kick it off with talking about a story. And this gives you some insight into Ronald, co-host with me, that we went and saw Fallout together. And this was back when I lived in Southern California. We lived close by, and we went to our significant others, and we went to go get dinner, and then we went to go see the movie in IMAX. And I always joke how I'm so amped after these movies. You know, I just feel like I can sprint, and we're literally walking out of the movie, and Ron just starts chasing cars in the parking lot. No joke, chasing cars in the parking lot like a madman. And I can only imagine if someone looked in the rearview mirror and just saw this crazy man just sprinting like Tom Cruise after them. And it's like 10 at night, and he's just sprinting. And that's Ron right there. And that's his dedication to Tom Cruise movies. So if you're unfamiliar with Dead Reckoning Part 1, you live under a rock and you don't know that this movie came out. At the time of this recording, it is July 20th. So it came out last week. And this was the movie that Tom Cruise, if you are into all the, the paparazzi stuff and all the drama, TMZ stuff, this is the movie that Tom Cruise yelled at the crew during the pandemic. If you haven't seen that clip, it's kind of funny, but it's also like, it's very true. He's just yelling about protocols and saying, we're not shutting this movie down, and, talking about jobs and whatnot. And even though it's very intense, I would say that it gets the point across. And I think the first time I heard it, I was like, well, he's not wrong. He wants to make sure that they can film the movie, that he's making sure that they follow protocol so it doesn't get shut down, so they don't lose money, all those types of things. And he's the lead actor. He's setting the tone for the production of it. So you can't really fault him for that. I mean, maybe the way that he said it, but at the same time, again, it was such an uncertain period that you got to follow these steps. And I'm saying this so that anybody listening, they're not trying to put any politics into it. I'm saying that they have no idea what to do, how to follow, what steps they just have to do them, if they believe in them or not. And so watch that clip if you haven't. Some other drama with this movie, and this one, I'll say maybe about a month ago, that came out about how Tom Cruise was very upset about the IMAX release. And I'm pretty positive, I have not checked my phone yet to see if on my AMC app, if they have already taken out Dead Reckoning. And I'm sure they have, because it's Thursday, the day before Oppenheimer comes out. But years ago, when Oppenheimer was coming out, Paramount locked down the IMAX release screens for a certain amount of period. They knew that this was going to be the release date for the next Christopher Nolan movie. And so they locked all those times down. And now coming closer to the release of Dead Reckoning, all of a sudden it's coming out how Tom Cruise is very upset that he's only getting a week release in IMAX and it hurt his production and why you need to see all this. I don't know how truthful all these are. These are just tweets and news outlets saying this. But I mean, you got to say it's smart for Paramount that they lock these things down, and you can't be upset that they just planned ahead for it. Summer is a busy time for movie releases. Summer blockbusters. They could have potentially moved it or forecasted this, potentially down the road. But it's a good business move on Paramount and Christopher Nolan. With the buildup to this one, I saw a lot of tweets on Twitter. That's where I usually go for movie stuff about ranking scenes, movies, action, all that kind of stuff. For myself, I grew up watching MI2. And if you haven't seen MI2, and I'm not trying to be mean about it, it's probably the worst one. And it wasn't until later on that they finally got the formula right with it. But with MI2, it's different. And if you are not the biggest fan, or maybe you're just a casual fan of Mission Impossible, originally there was Tom Cruise's idea that he wanted to have a different director helm each movie, to have a different take on it, to have their different style choices in it. And this one, and MI2 was a different director than one. I think the first one, what was it, De Palma, and then the second one was John Woo, I think. And so with the second one, it's probably the worst one, but at the same time, I feel like it is the only one that has a banging soundtrack. I mean, all the Limp Bizkit songs on it. I mean, I still get down to those songs, but that's just me. Now, after 2, I think there was a little break, and let me quickly try to, while I'm just rambling here. There was a break in the release between the 2 and 3 because I think 2 didn't do that as well. And so Mission Impossible 3 came out in 2006 and MI2 came out in 2000, so 6 years in between. But in MI3, this is when J.J. Abrams came on board, and I feel like they got the formula down. And ever since then, they've kind of just improved it. They've just been working on the action. They know that they have to keep the stakes high. And that's really the magic of these MI movies, in my opinion, is that every time there's an action scene, there's stakes involved. A bomb, people dying, or the anticipation of what's going to happen with a fight scene coming. They've elevated the stakes of each situation so the audience feels like they're part of it. They have to watch. They can't take their eyes off of it. So they've done a good job, in my opinion, with the storytelling of it, the acting, the action, all that kind of stuff. And a good example of, I'll say the opposite of that, in MI2, it opens up with this rock climbing scene and a rock climbing stunt where Tom Cruise basically jumps from one rock to another. Yeah, did it look visually stunning? Yeah, looks great. But what's the stakes for? Why is he risking his life like that? They're just doing it for action's sake. And so that's kind of the formula they've moved away from. And another piece of the formula is that there's a lot of use of practical effects. The ones that I've seen a lot on Twitter or in different YouTube breakdowns is how whenever they do the mass scenes, how they use practical effects, where they're just moving the camera, and sometimes both the actors are in the shot, but they have some type of set piece that they can move around, that they can essentially use stunt doubles and both actors to make it seem like they put the mask on and all of a sudden it's the other actor portraying who's ever putting on the mask. So it's really cool how the directors, they kind of know what they have to, the ones that come on now. And if you're unfamiliar with the last few ones, ever since Christopher McQuarrie came on, he's been doing the last 3, I think. And that was the first time it's happened. But the practical effects, all the callbacks, they all have some type of mix in them that call back to the other, that keep the story going just enough.
Feeling inspired by hosts Ron and Tyler? This episode of the MovieBuffs Podcast is brought to you by the YouTube workout channel Time to Train Fitness. With all things YouTube, it's free. Jump into a bar class, crank out a cycling workout, or pump out a strength session. Everything you need to work out for free at home. Check out the description and subscribe today.
You heard the promo about Time to Train Fitness and you're thinking, how do I get some dumbbells? There's really only two products that I recommend when it comes to at-home fitness, and one of those are the Core Home Fitness Adjustable Dumbbells. If you're already following the YouTube workouts, these are the dumbbells that I use, me, Tyler, and you've probably seen me adjust them between the weights super fast. Along with adjusting quickly, they go from 5 pounds to 50 pounds and feel great in the hands. Head to the link in the description and grab yourself a pair. You have the free workouts on YouTube and will now have the dumbbells to help you reach your fitness goals. Now let's talk about the cast and crew before we get into more of the breakdown, the spoiler-free breakdown of this movie. Director Christopher McQuarrie, if you're unfamiliar with this duo, he first, I believe, started writing on a movie for Tom Cruise. I'm not off the top of my head if it was the which one was it that I think it might have been Jack Reacher. I'm quickly looking at the IMDb right now, but I think it was Jack Reacher that they met, and then ever since then, I believe he's been helping out even on the projects that he's not directing, that Tom Cruise is starring in. And when he took over for Rogue Nation, he has done Fallout and then now Dead Reckoning Part 1, and he's doing Part 2. But I like that duo. They work so well together, I think. And I think once you find that type of relationship, you just want to keep doing it. And other directors do it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Other directors do it. And they have that right mix together. So it's pretty cool to see. Cast for this, Tom Cruise. I'm going to come back to, of course, Tom Cruise and a couple of these actors. Hayley Atwell's in it. Ving Rhames, one of the only actors that's been in all of them, other than Tom Cruise. Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby, and Pom Klementieff. Now, with these movies, and part of why I like them, is Tom Cruise and his amazing stunts that he does. I've heard many times how Tom Cruise is often one of the best stunt coordinators, one of the best stunt performers on a set. And knowing that he's driving the cars, flying the planes, flying the helicopters, it's insane. Or he's the one jumping out of the airplanes, and you hear how many times he had to jump out of airplanes for Fallout. Insane. He's a wild man. And just knowing that that's him right there, there's no stunt double, there's no CGI to change the face, any of that kind of stuff. It's wild. It's insane. And so those pieces of it, in my opinion, they make me lock in more for the movie, that I want to see what is he going to do next. And as each movie progresses, the practical stunts get bigger and bigger. And in this one, with the build up to it, they shared the background for the train scene. Now, you've probably seen in the trailers how they have this train scene that I think they show in it. I know that they show like going off a cliff, and they actually built the train. This was all done before. I'll say that they already talked about this. Is already out. This not spoiling anything. It's already out there, but they built this train so that they can destroy it. And there's of course, they couldn't just do it into a lake. They did it into, I think, a quarry or something like that. But the trains collapsing one by one, watching the practical effects with CGI a little bit mixed in, and it makes it visually more appealing. Just knowing that Tom Cruise and Hayley Atwell, they had some part of that together. And the editor for this movie actually shared that this scene was originally 90 minutes long, and they had to cut it down to 50, which is still crazy. It's a pretty amazing scene, and there's a lot of stuff that goes in on it. But it's this build of big stunt after big stunt that you tune in for, that you are waiting to see. It's all part of the fun of it. It's all part of the fun of going to the movies, sitting through a 2 to 3 hour movie, eating your popcorn, all that kind of stuff, the enjoyment of it. It's the experience of it that really is a great formula to have. Now, I'm going to jump around a little here in my little outline here, that this movie specifically has a different setup. And this was maybe my only negative, I'll say, of it, was that there was a little bit of a different setup. Now, they usually open with some amazing Tom Cruise stunt that you're just like, oh my goodness, and it sets the tone for the movie. This one starts with a little bit of backstory. So you don't see Tom Cruise for a little bit, and it gives the backstory for us. Since the syndicate is gone, if you're following the movies, syndicate's gone. The bad guys that's been a part of the last few ones, no longer there. So they have to set the stage for the stakes. Why is this Mission Impossible? Why do they have to save or do X, Y, and Z throughout it? So that was different. I can't say that it was a negative, or the movie doesn't detract from it, but I personally, nobody else, I like that. That formula. You want to see Tom Cruise come out, fly on the outside of a plane, do something crazy. So that's a little different, but you can tell why they had to set all this stuff up for the whole movie and for part two. Part of this one that I enjoyed, Dead Reckoning, is there's a lot of callbacks that continue through with the Bravo Echo 1-1, a lot of references to MI1. Some of the characters too from Mission Impossible 1 are in this one. Like Kittredge is in it, and his continuing in it, him coming back, train scene, a lot of cool stuff. That one of the ones that just popped in my head was just the hand scene with I think it's the floppy disk. Yes, MI1, they have floppy disks in it, and just a little bit of close-up magic stuff that was in that one that is in this one. So callbacks, I enjoyed a lot of those. It's fun to see that continuation and them just referencing a lot of them and keeping a lot of the same small stylistic similarities with angles, how things are shot. The story now, the relevance of today and the weaponization of AI, it's interesting. So like that is part of the story of it. It's about AI. And I'm not going to go too much into that, but it's a hot topic right now. People talk about AI. I use some AI stuff with my workflow. And I thought it was funny that in the last week, James Cameron actually came out and tweeted about how he warned everybody about weaponizing AI. But it's very relevant to today. So it's an interesting topic. I think, got to give my one shout out for my wife here. I think that might have been her least favorite part of it, was the AI part of it. And it could be just, we hear a lot about AI and whatnot, but it was a good choice, I thought, to move on from the syndicate and choose to talk about AI and how you can weaponize all that kind of stuff. And so that's, very bland and basic explanation of the villain aspect of this movie. And you have to see it to get the full effect, but it's smart, I'll say, with the relevance. Favorite character that I had that was not Tom Cruise, and I don't know why I didn't tweet this, but I wanted to, about how Pom Klementieff, how she is easily the most badass person in this movie. If you're not familiar with her, she's from Guardians of the Galaxy. She plays Mantis, so she's also in some of the Marvel movies, and she is just badass. She doesn't have that many lines. I was trying to actually think about this last night, how many she had. Maybe 3, 4, 5. She doesn't say much, but with just sounds, facial expressions, and just the martial arts and all the fighting scenes, she is off the chain. Just badass in it. And so I think she was actually my favorite person. Every time you see her, she steals the scene for it, in my opinion. She's that awesome in it. Now, getting to recommendation and wrap this up, I think, of course, you got to see it. Still, and this doesn't ruin anything, it doesn't take anything away from it. Fallout, it's still my favorite Mission Impossible, but this one is fun. It's a good watch. It builds for the next one coming up. If you're a fan of it, you're going to go see it. If you can, see it in the biggest possible theater that you can. Enjoy it, have fun with it, and come back and let me know what you think. This has been it for the MovieBuffs Podcast and Instant Reaction. My name is Tyler. Hope you enjoy this one, and I'll see you in the next one.